Yesterday, several individuals were reported dead and hundreds more injured after an attack in Lebanon targeted walkie-talkies used by Hezbollah. So here to discuss is Karol Markowicz, New York Post columnist and host of the Karol Markowicz Show, as well as Peter Gietl, managing editor for Return and Frontier magazine. So Karol, let's start with you, because before it was the walkie-talkies, it was the pagers. So let's start there. How exactly did the pagers explode just all across the country?
Well, I would love to know, and I don't know that we're going to find out exactly, but it looks like Israel somehow got into the supply chain, which means that it's likely that these terrorists bought those pagers from Israel, which is, of course, hilarious. But we don't know exactly how they did it. That's really a great mystery right now, how they got them all to detonate at the same time. All of that is really a large question.
So, Karol and Peter as well, is there any previous use of this sort of tactic by Mossad? I mean, it's fascinating to the world, and I think underneath the memes is a sort of awe that they were able to pull this off. But is there any previous hints of this kind of tactic?
Well, we've seen in the past the Mossad's been able to implant bombs into small devices, including cell phones, but never anything on this level of thousands of pagers, thousands of walkie-talkies. I mean, there's some rumors coming out that it may have been a shell company through Hungary that then sold it, that was helmed by a British national that sold it to Lebanese suppliers. But, as Karol was saying, it's all very up in the air right now, and there's a lot of unknown facts.
Karol, what's your take?
Well, I would just say that a lot of my friends in Israel are amazed and just baffled at how they did it. I don't think that the average Israeli even understands how this went down. It'll be a while before we really find out what happened here. In the meantime, if you're a terrorist in Lebanon, I would not be using any electronics at all. I think carrier pigeon is the way to go for now.
Absolutely. They're not even letting people on flights now in Lebanon with the pagers or the walkie-talkies or any of these devices. They're just very scared right now. But when you look at this, Karol, just from a logistics perspective, just the sheer undertaking of pulling off something of this size, what are we looking at?
It's amazing. Look, I'm as pro-Israel as can be. I am just my jaw hanging open when I first saw the story. I thought it was just amazing and innovative. I don't think we've ever again seen anything like this before. And one of the points that I've been driving home a lot in my writing and on my feed is that Israel is in this large-scale war with Hezbollah, and Americans largely don't know about it. I think this really brought the story to Americans, that this is not just a war going on in Gaza. Israel's been fighting on this second front since October 8th.
That's a really good point, and I think it has brought a lot of attention. I want to go back to that larger issue in a minute, but first, the walkie-talkies, I mean, is that the same for the audience as the pagers? And then it presents the question, what's next? I saw people online like Jack Posobiec say, my cell phone got hot and I threw it out the window. What else could be next? And are these part of the same supply chain or different? Do we know?
I don't have an answer to that. I'm not really sure. I imagine it has to be the same, right? It has to be some sort of like, buy this many pagers, get this many walkie-talkies free, or something like that from the supplier. I don't imagine it's two different supply chains.
Are you concerned at all, Karol, about this broadening the conflict in the region? And I mean, obviously, as you correctly pointed out, this has been going on since last year. But I mean, is there a danger that this could escalate into a full war with Iran, or at least Iranian proxies in Lebanon?
Right. Well, yeah, of course I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid for everybody in the Middle East that is a possibility. But again, what people need to understand is that this has already been ongoing. 80,000 people, maybe even more, are evacuated in the north of Israel. Unprecedented. Israel's never done anything like that. And, there's a lot of conversation within Israel whether that evacuation was a mistake, right? Because when do these people go home? When they do go home, isn't that when Hezbollah really ups their attacks? But they've been attacking from the north, since October 8th, they saw the opening. So this war with, you can't call it Lebanon. It's not Lebanon. Lebanon has been taken over by an Iranian-backed terrorist group, Hezbollah. So this war with Hezbollah has really been coming. And tonight there's bombings in the south part of Lebanon. I think this was all very expected. And I want also to make the point that Israel is fighting this war in Gaza. It's far easier than what is going to have to happen with Lebanon. And I think that's what Israelis have been worried about and pushing off for as long as possible. Hezbollah has much more serious weapons than Hamas. They have a much more serious operation. And again, they are Iranian-backed. They have a lot more access to funds and weapons. This is a dangerous situation for Israel. Obviously, they don't want to be in it, but I don't see what choice they've been left with.
No, it's a very tough situation. Karol, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Gentlemen, when we look at it, it's a tough situation to navigate. So how do you go through and deal with a situation like this without escalating it too much into a full-on war? There's a lot to balance here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious question is for Israel is what do they think is in their best interest in national security, that is what it is. So this is not an easy situation. I think we should note, though, that for a lot of Americans thinking about this, what it presents is the possibility that you can create technology that has a bomb in it that could go off later on. So, for instance, what if you owned a company and you were a foreign and all of our stuff is manufactured overseas, and you made sure that a certain product that a certain demographic would buy all had something that could be triggered, and you could individually trigger it in some fashion, right? I mean, that's not impossible if what we just saw is possible, which would mean that you could sell products that you could essentially use as bombs anytime. I mean, I think that is unlocking the imagination to a lot of dark possibilities for a lot of people right now.
Well, it's an excellent point, Matt, too, because these supply chains, which are very crucial to every electronic component that we use, are almost entirely foreign-based, especially in China, which is obviously a geopolitical rival. And it begs really important questions about we've outsourced all this to save money, and there's a lot of second tier, second magnitude issues that come up with this of exposing yourself if they can just plant a bomb in any tech product.
What we're learning today is we think we know so much, and yet we know so little.